While wandering around Freeside just outside Mick and Ralph's, we often see a little boy chasing a little girl with a toy gun. I don't know of many toy guns from the pre-war world. I wonder where he got it. If we catch up to him, we can talk with him.
Reach for the sky, lady.
All of our dialogue options are to get this kid to sell us or give us the gun. Even the option that says that he should take a break, maybe he's tired, is so that we can steal it from him more easily. We can barter with him. He claims that he spent 1 million caps on it, and he offers to sell it to you for 1,000, but you can barter him down, or pass a 60 speech check by convincing him that you're a space soldier, and that the general sent you to borrow the gun to stop an alien invasion. This is the one I'm gonna choose.
Really? Cool. Bring it back to me when you're done, okay? I think Stacy might be turning into an alien.
The gun is called Euclid's C-Finder. The ammunition it takes is Arch 2 Charge. Whatever that could be. When we pull it out, we get our first clue. On the very back of the gun, we see a screen with the words Poseidon Energy. Now, we know about Poseidon Energy. It's unlikely that they made a series of toy guns, but they have made arms for the United States military. Could this be a real working weapon? If so, where on earth could Max have found it? It's a handsome-looking gun. It looks kind of like an alien blaster, only it's green and it has a red lightning bolt on the side. But where on earth do we find the Arch 2 recharge ammunition? Well, to answer these questions, let's follow up on the only clue we have, the big Poseidon Energy logo on the back of the gun. Now, there are plenty of Poseidon Energy gas stations all over the Mojave, but arguably the biggest installation that Poseidon Energy had here is the Helios One solar power plant. Maybe we can find our answers in there. As we approach, we notice that the NCR has taken over this installation, and outside the door they have a modest, fortified presence. The woman in charge of the gate is a Lieutenant Haggardly.
This is a restricted area. State your business.
We could ask her what the NCR is doing here to begin with. Why aren't they on the front line fighting Caesar's Legion?
I ask myself the same question all the time. But energy is hard to come by around here. Gives you more control over this area than troops ever could. Hell, if we lose the dam to the Legion, this little plant may be our last stand.
Alright, but if this is such an important power plant, shouldn't there be more NCR forces defending it?
There should, but we're not getting much power out of it, so none of our enemies have big interest in it either. Not like Hoover Dam, anyway. We had a real fighting force here just long enough to take it from the Brotherhood of Steel. Then they got sent east to the dam like everybody else. Caesar's Legion sends skirmishers every so often, prodding for weaknesses mostly. The reality is, if they really wanted it, we'd all be dead.
The Brotherhood of Steel? Why were they here?
Damned if I know. Put up a hell of a fight, though. We had them outnumbered, 20-1 maybe? They held out as long as they could, lost most of their force before they retreated. Gave us a little parting gift, too. They had some of the plant running, but they shut it all down. Enabled an old security system, too, to keep us away from the controls. Jerk-offs.
Well, the Brotherhood of Steel is well known for hoarding technology, particularly weaponry. If they were here, maybe there's a weapon here that the NCR doesn't know about. And maybe it's related to our Euclid C-Finder. When we ask to enter the power plant, Lieutenant Haggardly asks us why she would allow us in. We can then pass a number of different checks. A speech check to lie about our brother being stationed here, or a science check saying that we noticed the solar tower isn't collecting much sunlight, and we might be able to help, both of which are true.
No need. We already have an expert hard at work on it. Then again, our expert is an idiot. Hell, he might as well be a saboteur. I guess you couldn't do any worse. Have him fill you in on the details. He's in the back of the building. You'll know him when you see him. Keeps his sunglasses on all the time. Even when he's sleeping.
So we need to find an idiot in sunglasses. Sounds easy enough. But first, while we're here, let's explore the place. Upon entry, we find ourselves in a lobby of sorts. We find NCR soldiers everywhere. It's a good thing we're on good terms with the NCR. Behind the front counter is a working terminal with a bunch of interesting information. The first note says Archimedes testing. Archimedes. Arch 2? Could this be related to the ammo that we need to fire our gun? The note is an internal memo to all Poseidon Energy employees working here. It warns them that Poseidon Energy is going to be running a test of the connection between Archimedes, whatever that is, and the security system here at Helios One. It warns employees to stay inside during this testing and to not go outside until the all clear is given. Interestingly, they have employees sign death and dismemberment waivers, and it tells them that wearing eyewear is mandatory. So clearly Archimedes is some sort of weapon. The kind of weapon we don't know yet, but it's got to be outdoors, it must emit a very bright light, and it must be incredibly powerful. It can kill or even dismember people who are just standing outside. In the next note, we learn the results of the Archimedes testing. It was a successful test, but it also overloaded many of the minor systems in Helios One. After the test, the facility had 2.5 minutes of downtime, which is not the end of the world. They're going to be working on that. However, after the test, nearby facilities reported that they experienced system-frying power fluctuations, most notably at Black Mountain Communications Array and the military bunkers in Hidden Valley. Poseidon Energy is going to work on tweaking their tests so that this doesn't happen again. In the next note, we learned that Brigadier General Scott Lau of the United States Army relocated to Helios One. Helios One is a Poseidon Energy solar power plant, not a military installation, but this Brigadier General Scott Lau moved here permanently. His arrival is somehow connected with Archimedes. General Lau is the only person authorized to use Archimedes for anything other than a test. Even though this Archimedes was created and designed by Poseidon Energy, only this general can use it. This gives us another clue that this Archimedes is a weapon. Interestingly, Poseidon Energy tells their employees that they don't have to salute, they're not in the military, but they must observe thorough grooming and hygiene regimens and dress neatly while the general is around. Poseidon Energy wants their men to look and act no different than the experienced soldiers that General Lau is accustomed to. The final note is possibly the most disturbing. It's called Can I Tell Him? This is a propaganda letter written by Poseidon Energy, and it sounds like it's been written for a 3-year-old. Obsidian really hit the nail on the head here. It sounds like something you would see in a propaganda video from the 1950s. In this document, Poseidon Energy is trying to explain to its employees why they can't tell anybody what they do here at Poseidon Energy. Poseidon Energy understands why the employee might become enthusiastic about the incredible endeavors that they are working on here. You may want to tell your wife. After all, the bond between a husband and wife is sacred. But as Poseidon Energy puts it, a woman's idle tongue is the devil's plaything. No sooner do you leave for work than she's on the phone telling her best friend, who is then on the phone telling her best friend, who then tells her best friend, until finally that friend tells Doris, who just so happens to be a Chinese communist agent posing as an American operator. She then phones the Forbidden City, singing like a treasonous canary. The following day, you and your wife are bound in shackles, and China is sitting at the controls of our entire arsenal. What about my children? Can I tell my children? And we get a familiar tale. One day at school, Ivan Bulikov will get more than lunch money out of your kids. He might also get national secrets. And while he's parading through the Red Square as a national hero, your children will be working in forced labor camps right next to you and your beautiful young wife, who is now wrinkled and homely since the communists have banned makeup because it expresses individuality. I guess all women without makeup are homely, according to this. What about my drinking buddies? Can I tell them? Surely if anywhere is safe, then a man can place his trust in his other male friends. But, cautions Poseidon Energy, how much do you really know about them? Are they friends or comrades? One can never be too sure. The note ends by saying, listen, you're part of 2 families now, and you have obligations to both. But your obligation to Poseidon Energy is greater, because while your children may misbehave and your friends may change and your wife may nag and cheat on you, Poseidon Energy will always be paying for and protecting your way of life. Don't tell anyone anything about the projects you conduct here. When pressed, tell them that your job is repetitive and not worth discussing, but that the company, capital C, is nurturing and gives you good benefits and is always looking for new talent. Wow. Continuing to explore this facility, we arrive in an industrial part of the building, maybe a warehouse or a machine shop of some sort. We find lots of NCR down here, even some Ranger veterans, but not a whole lot on this bottom floor. Going up the stairs and through the door leads to some elevated pods. I think the NCR is using these as barracks. We do find a couple of wall-mounted cots and footlockers and other tiny bedrooms. This area where these pods and catwalks are is a huge vaulted space, almost as if they used this space to build something massive. But whatever they built is no longer here. All we find are pumps and generators, and then of course scaffolding. At the end, heading out the eastern door, we can explore more of the offices. We find another room that is indeed being used as a barracks, NCR troopers standing about in bunk beds, lined with personal possessions. And then heading up the stairs, we can go through a door to find another barracks room. Here on one of the tables, we find Eastern Reflector Control Terminal password. Let's hang on to this, it may come in handy later. We find another terminal on a desk here, but it has all the same entries as the lobby terminal. And lying on a bed, we find a copy of DC Journal of Internal Medicine, which increases our medicine skill by 3. All that's left to explore is the door on the bottom of the big vaulted machine shop area that we bypassed earlier. Heading through this door, we come to a long hallway ending at another door, which leads to a control room. Here we find 2 men. The first is a man named Fantastic, wearing very silly-looking sunglasses.
Who the hell are you? They bring you in to replace me? They're replacing me, aren't they?
That's right, buddy. I'm here to replace you.
Ah, shit! Shit, man! I need this. Gotta pay the bills. And I'm addicted to a lot of different kinds of chems. I mean a lot.
We can pass a speech check to extort some caps out of this sucker.
Aw, man. How am I supposed to buy chems now? Fine, here.
Or we can choose to attack him.
Newsflash, Fantastic is irreplaceable.
Watch out!
I've got you now.
Which does absolutely no good. We simply fail the quest, that lucky old son. No, I'm not here to replace you. Calm down.
Damn right you're not. Goddamn right. Why would they? You can't top this guy. Just a little more time. You can't keep Fantastic down for long.
This man seems a little insecure. Why is he worried about being replaced?
Worried? Do I look worried to you? I've got this under control, baby. No one else can do what I do here.
What exactly do you do here, Mr. Fantastic?
Everything. I push buttons, I turn dials, I read numbers. Sometimes I make up little stories in my head about what the numbers mean. Like one time I imagined they were a code to get into a vault full of naked women. Man, how cool would that be?
Oh yeah, man, that would be super cool. How did you get this job?
It was easy, man. They were going door to door asking if anyone knew any scientists. I said look no further. They asked me if I knew anything about power plants. I said as much as anyone I had ever met. They asked me how well I understood theoretical physics. I said I had a theoretical degree in physics. They said welcome aboard.
So you have no idea what you're doing?
No, man. I know exactly what I'm doing. I just don't know what effect it's going to have. Over there controls power in this building. That station has readouts on the computer network. That big knob there makes a crazy noise. Sparks come out of that slot if you put stuff in it. And I'm learning more every day. I'm in charge. This whole operation depends on me. No Fantastic, no power. Got the whole NCR suckling my teats, and it feels so good. Well, see, we're getting power because the guy running this place is Fantastic. But the mirrors outside aren't aimed right, so we're running at 1% efficiency, and I guess that just isn't good enough for some assholes. Trouble is, most of the controls for this place aren't here. They're in the tower. And that place has some crazy pre-war security system that the dumb shit NCR set off when they took over. Killed 2 guys. Now they won't go near it. They want me to make an omelet, but I can't break any of their eggs. Know what I'm saying?
Alright, how would someone retarget those mirrors?
There's these 2 terminals outside. They control the mirrors. I tried fooling with them, but didn't get very far. You'd have to get them to talk to the mainframe up in the tower, then do the rest from up there. I'm guessing, but it sounds good, right? Hey, you're not thinking about going up there, are you? Well, hey, if you find yourself up at the mainframe, do yourself a favor and make sure you send the power to the right place. It needs to go to the Strip and McCarran.
Why should I send the power to the Strip and McCarran?
Because I get paid, that's why. Per kilowatt hour. Whatever the hell that is. That's where the NCR wants the power, so that's where I want it. But you do that, maybe I put in a good word for you with them. Fantastic's little helper. There's a reputation you can hang your hat on. Here, you'll want this. It's the password to one of the terminals outside. Found it written on one of the stalls in the bathroom.
As we depart, he gives us the Western Reflector Control Terminal password. Now we have a set. The Eastern, which we found in one of the rooms upstairs, and the Western. So the problem here at Helios One is that the solar panels are not aimed correctly. They're just not gathering the sunlight efficiently. But this has the potential to provide a lot of power to the Strip and other places in the Mojave. As we're about to leave, we pass by a man named Ignacio Rivas.
It's unusual to see a new face here. Are you a soldier or a scientist?
Now our answer here changes things a little bit. We can say that we're a drifter.
I see. Then you must have some special business here for them to have let you through.
And that not really, we just kind of stumbled in.
Interesting. Forgive me for prying, but I'm curious. Are you with a particular group?
This man is really keen on finding out our affiliation. We can turn the question back on him. Who is he with?
Very well, yes. I'm part of the followers of the apocalypse. If you're not familiar, we seek peace and the spread of knowledge. Knowledge that must never be lost to the world. Now your turn.
But then it comes back to us. We can play coy and say, I want what you want.
That's reassuring. Although many who've made that claim to the followers of the apocalypse over the years have had less than pure intentions. But if it's really as you say, then take my advice. This installation carries with it dangers that no one here has realized. Take care of what you do here and who you listen to. Some things are best left buried with the old world.
Something buried? Is there more to this place than it just being a power plant?
I don't entirely know. Our records on the company that built this place suggest that their dealings were not only in energy, but also in weapons. And I've seen equipment here marked with symbols used by the pre-war military, targeting computers, shock sensors. A code word comes up repeatedly in the papers I've looked through here. Archimedes.
Aha! This is why we're here. And is the Archimedes a weapon they built here?
Yes. And the technology they have in this facility is like nothing I've seen. Some of it reminds me of Enclave equipment, but more advanced. A weapon based upon it would be catastrophic, no matter who claimed it. It's no wonder the Brotherhood wouldn't give it up.
Did the Brotherhood know about Archimedes?
They weren't here for me to ask, but I doubt they were here for electricity. When the NCR first came here, it was under Brotherhood control. They usually steer clear of one another, but something here changed their minds. The Brotherhood's interest in pre-war technology has always been in weapons. It's likely they were trying to reclaim Archimedes when the NCR arrived.
Does the NCR know about Archimedes?
Not yet. By some miracle, they've hired an imbecile to try and decipher the systems here. He spent months working at one console trying to get the solar reflectors to track the sun. What he doesn't know is that the only thing the console controls is the plant's intercom system. I tried to tell him, but he insisted that the largest console had to be the most important. Still, it's only a matter of time.
Well, now that he's divulged everything he knows, we can say that the NCR asked us to increase the plant's power output.
Then I would say do it. As long as the power of this plant is committed to the regional grid and not to a weapon, we are safe. If you're the one to restore output, then you can route the power where you choose, and they'll never be the wiser. I can't get you past the security in the tower, but I can be of some help. I've discovered a password for one of the mirror control terminals outside. You'll need it.
And then he gives us the Eastern Reflector Control Terminal password, in case we didn't get the one in the room near the beginning. But why would he trust us with this?
I'm a man of letters. I'd be torn to pieces by the security system they have in that tower. I'd never reach the mainframe. But eventually, the NCR will. Or if not them, Caesar's Legion. They will use this place for war. Because the possibility exists you might do anything else, you're the only choice I have.
All right, well, where should we route the power?
The NCR has their own designs for it, no doubt, but resist the urge to send it only to the thriving communities. The need for power is great everywhere. Distributing it evenly is the most rational and humane choice.
Now, Ignacio is not quite as helpful depending on how we answer at the beginning. For example, if we say that we are a soldier, he says...
Well, that explains it. NCR? Who do you fight for?
And if we say that we fight with the NCR...
That makes sense. It is their facility, after all. At least as long as they can hold it. As for me, I'm with the followers of the apocalypse.
All right, Ignacio, tell me more about the followers of the apocalypse.
Humanity lost many things after the war. Methods of agriculture, techniques for survival. We took it upon ourselves to piece together this knowledge and bring it back to them. Other things weren't lost, but were blocked from our collective memory. Knowledge of what we're capable of and how things spiral out of control. It's in our nature to want to forget truths that keep us awake at night. And for that reason, it's all the more important that the followers walk the ways to remind people of them.
Do the followers work with the NCR?
We did for a time, but our goals differ. The NCR only cares to expand their wealth and their reach. For us, territory boundaries mean nothing, and prosperity has to be for everyone, not just citizens of the NCR. So parting was inevitable. While the NCR pushes east, we clean up the mess they leave behind, try to provide some stability.
All right then, Ignacio, why are you here?
I'm a visiting scholar. Solar power technology may be important to our future, and I was sent to research it.
But if we say the exact same thing about increasing the plant's power, since we said that we are soldiers, Ignacio responds differently.
They're playing you for a fool. You'll die in that tower, just like their soldiers did. Why do you think they haven't taken care of this themselves?
He's trying to keep us out of that tower. Or instead of saying that we're a soldier with the NCR, we can say that my only true allegiance is to myself.
Then for everyone's sake, I hope you serve a worthy master. Are you a maker of war or peace?
We can try to dodge the question by saying we don't want to get involved.
But there's no avoiding it. You can only outrun the choice for so long. Take now, for instance. You're inside a facility with lost technology, some of it very dangerous. Unless you turn and leave right now, you'll be very much involved in the lives of people you've never seen or met.
That's a good point. Now we have to choose whether or not we are for war or peace. If we say war...
That's an unfortunate mistake. As a follower of the apocalypse, I've studied it all my life, but I'll never understand how people don't foresee what lies ahead on that path.
And Ignacio will try and dissuade us from going into the tower. But if we say peace, we can continue on like normal. So clearly Ignacio doesn't want to give access to the terminal that controls or manipulates Archimedes to anyone whom he might think would use it for war. This includes anyone affiliated with the NCR. So no matter how we truly feel on the topic, we have to convince him that we would never use such a weapon in order to get the password to continue forward. It's also important to talk to this guy regardless, because if we don't, we miss out on a bunch of loot after completing the quest. So, Sitrep, we've got a gun that doesn't work. It was made by Poseidon Energy, so we're here at their own power plant to see if we can find a way to get it to work. We learn about a weapon called Archimedes, but we don't actually find it here. Instead, we learn that it's connected to the security system here at Helios One, and that if triggered, it will emit a bright light and kill and even dismember people who are standing outside. But as we walk around outside, we don't actually see any weapon. There's no big death ray, no big gun, just a bunch of solar panels. This tells me that Archimedes must be an orbiting satellite. A satellite with a weapon attached to it that is connected to the security system here at Helios One. We need to find a way to get Archimedes up and running so that we can use our gun. Now, in addition to that, after meeting with Ignacio, we have to make a decision about how we want to deal with the power coming out of the Helios power plant. Now, the NCR wants us to send it to the Strip and McCarran, two places where the NCR spend a lot of time. McCarran Air Force Base is their de facto HQ, which is connected to the Strip by a tram station, where NCR troopers often go to spend their leisurely time. But Ignacio doesn't want us to just serve the NCR, he wants us to have this power plant help as many people as possible. Which is my ambition as well. The only reason I like the NCR is because they seem to be the only ones trying to help other people. But I agree with Ignacio here. If we have an opportunity to have this power plant help more people than just where NCR forces are stationed, that's probably the best choice. So, we need to reorient these solar panels to get the plant working again and find a way to contact Archimedes. First, we go to the Western Reflector Control Terminal. And here we see booby traps left by the fleeing Brotherhood of Steel. They must have known that this power plant also harbored access to Archimedes, the orbiting weapon. They wanted to prevent the NCR from getting their hands on this weapon, so they triggered the automated security system inside the main tower and set up these booby traps around the terminals. Well, we can disarm these tripwires and bear traps. There are some mines by the terminal. Be careful with companions, they can trigger them. I made that mistake. We can disarm a gun trap and then activate deactivate the terminal. Inside, we see all the same terminal entries that we found in the other terminals with one new one, Reset Mainframe Connection. And at last, we are successfully connected to the Helios One mainframe. As we continue to explore, we find big broken solar panels. These are useful in a quest that we do for the boomers to help repair their solar panels, but I'll be getting into that quest at a later time. For now, we continue exploring. The NCR have put a bunch of tents on the grounds near the solar panels. This area by the solar panels is patrolled by more NCR troopers than we've seen elsewhere in the facility. I'm honestly surprised that they haven't found either the eastern or western terminals yet and tried to disarm them in any way. At length, we arrive at the eastern terminal. Inside here, we find some NCR guard dogs, which are going to be peaceful if we're allied with the NCR. And then in a tiny shack, the eastern control terminal. From here, we do exactly what we did before and we reset the mainframe connection. Now we need to go to the mainframe and send the power generated by these solar panels to the correct destination, and we get an optional quest: arm the Archimedes security system to wipe out all nearby NCR soldiers. The mainframe control terminal is inside the giant concrete block connected to the tower in the middle of the solar array. Outside, we see a big sign: Helios One, the dawn of the golden age. Inside, we go down a darkened hallway to emerge in a large room. But this room is guarded by two ceiling-mounted turrets, which immediately open fire. The platform on this level in the other room also has a sentry bot, which we have to deal with. And once done, we have to kill one more sentry bot at the ground floor of this room. The Brotherhood of Steel has been here before. Looks like they were trying to get the weapon working themselves. We find more fragmentation mines already armed on the floor and on a shelf right next to us. In this room, we find a locked terminal, and I wish I had known about it earlier. This is the turret control system. From here, we can deactivate the ceiling-mounted turrets. Heading down the steps to the bottom, we find ourselves in a large workshop room. There's a big generator sitting out and lots of scrap. Connected to this room by a door is another room filled with all sorts of interesting technology. There's a big blue glowing emitter next to some busted out terminals. Here we find some pulse grenades on a shelf right next to a big average locked safe. Inside we find more grenades, mines, and caps. Going out and back up the stairs, we can go across a catwalk to the next room. Here on a table, next to a busted out terminal, is a programmer's digest, which increases our science by 10 temporarily. This is actually going to come in handy later. And then just a few more boxes to loot. Through a sliding door leads us to a sewer tunnel, which is guarded by a roving sentry bot. The door behind us is just a simple storage room with lots of boxes to loot, and a first aid kit against the wall in the back. And continuing through the door where we killed the sentry bot, we see some bunks to the right, with the lanterns still lit. Well, this couldn't have been the NCR. They haven't been able to make it in here yet. Might it have been the Brotherhood of Steel? After all, they're the ones who triggered the pre-war defenses. Or maybe it was Poseidon Energy employees who slept here because their work was so time-consuming. Going through the door, we find ourselves at the top floor of a very large room. Patrolling the floor below us is a Mr. Gutsy robot. Heading down the steps to the second level, we find a copy of Fixing Things on a table. This temporarily increases our repair by 10. And then the stairway brings us to the bottom floor of this large room. We see a lot of machinery tucked away behind gates. Generators, reservoirs, not sure what all of this does. This must have been a lab of some sort. We see lots of lab equipment sitting out. Heading through the door, we come to a hallway, which makes a large loop. Heading right, we enter one small room filled with a bunch of machinery and terminals and consoles. And next to a skeletonized torso of a man on the ground, we find the Poseidon Energy employee ID card. I love the inspirational posters we find all over the place. Ruler of the tides of innovation, Poseidon Energy. Heading through an average locked door in this room takes us to another room with a large concrete pillar in the middle of it. Interestingly, there is a large amount of buffalo gourd seeds all over the place in here. there is a door to the left, which brings us to a room filled with protectrons in their protectron charging docks. The charging docks are very different in New Vegas than they are in Fallout 4. Instead of being closed by glass, these are encased in some sort of blue energy field. We see a blue laser tripwire at the bottom of one of the doors. This likely activates the protectrons, which will go hostile, so we need to disarm it. But neither my repair nor my science are high enough. Thankfully, we picked up that Programmer's Digest earlier, which increases our science by 10, and using this we can disarm the laser tripwire. Passing through the door connects us to the big hallway loop that we visited earlier. It takes us down the arm of the hallway that we did not go down the first time. Here we find another protectron in a protectron charging dock, and not a whole lot else. So back to the room with the giant concrete pillar in the middle, we find an elevator door to the Helios One observation level. This brings us upstairs to another big workshop area. And right in the middle of the room on the floor, connected to a giant metal box with red lights, is the mainframe terminal. However, it's not functional. There's a big yellow cord sticking out of it and smoke coming from the cord. We need to find a way to fix this. To do so, we head up the stairs and continue along the catwalk into the next room. Here we find a bunch of interesting machinery. We find a robo-brain inside a deactivated charging terminal. Also in this room is a map of some sorts. We see 5 yellow symbols and 1 orange symbol. Savvy viewers will actually recognize this as a map of the Capital Wastelands from Fallout 3. The points marked are Raven Rock, Vault 101, Megaton, Rivet City, the Mall, and the Citadel. And right next to it is a Mr. Handy robot named Python. Now we can either use a science of 45 or the Poseidon Energy employee ID card that we found earlier to reactivate the robot. Once reactivated, it immediately jumps up and continues to perform the task it was working on before it deactivated. In this case, it fixes the wires by shooting electricity at them. With the wiring fixed, we now have access to the mainframe. Inside the mainframe terminal, we see 3 options: to configure the power grid, to read about initial trials, or to read about the Archimedes testing. Here we find a new note, where we learn that Poseidon Energy launched a second Archimedes, Archimedes 2, which was connected to a handheld device called a rangefinder. So there are 2 Poseidon Energy satellites that we know of orbiting the Earth. Archimedes 1, which is connected to the security system here at Helios One, and Archimedes 2, which is connected to the mobile rangefinder. The goal of this test was to send power as microwave radiation from the power plant, Helios One, to a remote receiver, and converting it back into a usable form. All they have left to do is prove out the long-range communication/targeting system on the rangefinder. What do they mean by rangefinder? Mobile handheld device? Could this Euclid C-Finder that we bought from the boy Max in Freeside be the very same Archimedes 2 rangefinder that we read about in this terminal? The Archimedes testing node is one we've already read on all of the other terminals, so instead we go to Power Grid. This gives us 5 options. Option number 4 is to output the power from Helios One to the Archimedes 2, the orbiting satellite weapon. If our theory is correct, and if the Euclid C weapon that I bought off of the boy in Freeside is indeed the same handheld rangefinder that we read about in this terminal, then sending the power to Archimedes 2 should allow us to use the rangefinder as a weapon. We'll choose that one for now. Note that choosing any of the options other than diverting the power to the Archimedes 2 makes the Euclid C-Finder completely inoperable. The only way to get the gun to work is to divert power to the Archimedes 2 instead of to the people of the Mojave Wasteland who need it. Next up, we have to initiate reflector retargeting from the console on the tower observation deck. Leaving the terminal, heading upstairs, and across the catwalk through the room with the giant map on the ground, we can head through a door which leads us to a big observation deck outside. This is that tower we saw while exploring the solar panels on the field. Taking the ramp down and around the corner, we arrive at a small platform with the reflector control panel. Note that you can only activate the reflector control console during the day. If you try to at night, you get a message telling you to come back at daytime. Activating this correctly aligns the solar panels in the array. Once aligned, we see a big burst of sunlight. The solar panels are now more efficiently capturing sunlight, and they should now be diverting the power to the destination that we chose. When done, we can go talk with Ignacio.
I saw that on the monitors here. It's strange, but I can't find where on the grid the power is being sent to. Nevertheless, hopefully the NCR's curiosity is satisfied now that the plant's output is improved. Here, accept these for your efforts.
Little does he know that we've actually powered up our own weapon. He gives us 2 stim packs, we complete that lucky old sun, we get a doctor bag, and we gain Followers of the Apocalypse fame. Now, to test the gun. We can only use it once every 24 hours. Now that the Archimedes 2 has enough power, every 24 hours we get 1 new piece of ammunition in our inventory, the Arc-2 charge, the Archimedes 2 charge. So we find a target, we load the gun, and fire.
Yeah. I guess it works.
For some reason, and I'm not sure why, I was able to get this to fire twice. But then after the second one, I ran out of ammunition. And then you have to wait another 24 hours to get it to work again. Now, the reason they chose the name Archimedes is pretty obvious. 2 ancient authors named Lucian and Anthemius wrote about a Greek scientist named Archimedes who built a heat ray made from a bunch of mirrors arrayed in a circle that captured the sun's energy and turned it into a heat ray. Actually, the mirrors were really just highly polished bronze, but you get the idea. This stunt was duplicated by the Mythbusters a few years ago, but without success. The parallels are obvious here. The solar array is taking energy from the sun. That energy is then diverted to the Archimedes 2, and the Archimedes 2 turns that energy into a heat ray or a laser that you can call down upon your enemies. Now, the Euclid C is a reference to Greek mathematician Euclid, who came up with many of the basic geometric and mathematical principles we still use today. His name is used to describe Euclidean geometry and Euclid's algorithm, which is used for calculating the greatest common divisor of 2 integers. The animations we see when firing it is a reference to Euclidean geometry, which is used to find the 3rd point of a triangle if we already have points A and point B. So given that we know where the points are for A and B on a triangle, and given that we know the distances between BC and AC on the triangle, we can use Euclidean geometry to figure out the 3rd point, point C, and the distance between A and B. So in this example, B is the player's position on the ground holding the Euclid C-Finder, and A is the position of Archimedes 2, the satellite laser orbiting the planet. C is going to be your target. That's why the gun is called the C-Finder. The satellite gets the distance, BC, from the Euclid C-Finder after you pull the trigger, and it likely already knows AC, the distance between point A and point C, based on the height of the satellite, and then it makes the connection, allowing it to fire upon your target. Now, it's a fun weapon, but not really practical. It doesn't work indoors, obviously, because a satellite fires, and a satellite's not going to be able to fire indoors. It only works once every 24 hours, and the devastation is less than remarkable. As soon as you pull the trigger, your enemies become alerted to your presence and realize that you're firing upon them, and they charge you. It's very easy for them to walk outside the radius where the satellite laser is going to come down. So it's a nifty gadget, but not exactly earth-shattering. So let's go over what some of the other options are. Back at the Helios One mainframe terminal, instead of diverting power to the Archimedes 2, we can choose the first option, output the power to the McCarran Air Force Base and the Las Vegas Strip. The quest continues on the same way. We go up the ramp, out the door, to the platform, and then we pull the reflector control panel to align the solar panels to harvest sunlight. We then go back to Fantastic to turn in the quest.
Whoa, really? Oh, shit. Oh, I knew I could do it. Those NCR pricks can all get on their knees and worship at the altar of fucking Fantastic. But don't worry, I'll tell them what you did for me, man. Not all of it, though. They'd think I was an idiot. But some of it. Keep at it, man. One day you could end up where I am. You never know.
The only reward we get is a big dose of NCR fame. We only get rewards for the other options, including sending power to the Archimedes 2, if we first talked with Ignacio. If you bypassed Ignacio, you don't get any rewards, so make sure you talk with him before you choose an output at the terminal. Going back to try the next option, we can output the power to the slums of New Vegas, Fremont and West Side. We go back outside, we activate the reflector control console, and then instead of going to Fantastic, we go back to Ignacio.
I saw that on the monitors here, and you sent it to Freeside, where power is in short supply. A respectable decision. Now that the NCR has more or less what they want, hopefully their curiosity about the plan is satisfied, and they'll dig no deeper. The followers will be grateful. Here, take these, as a parting gift. I hope you'll find them useful.
In this case, we get 3 stim packs, 2 doctor's bags, and Follower of the Apocalypse fame. Back at the terminal, we can try option 3. This outputs power equally to the full region. Everyone, from the Vegas Strip to the slums of Fremont and Westside, get the same amount of power. It doesn't favor the NCR, and it doesn't favor the poor and helpless in the slums. Going back to Ignacio,
I saw that on the monitors here, and you sent it to everyone. Very admirable.
we get a big book of science, which gives us 3 science. We gain a big dose of Followers of the Apocalypse fame, 3 stim packs, and 2 doctor's bags. This is the best loot we can get from any of the decisions that we make. The final option is to output power to the full region, but to amp it up, to set it to emergency output level. I don't know, maybe we can squeeze some extra power out of these solar panels. If we choose this option and initiate the reflector, we can go back to Ignacio.
So I saw. Shame to let the energy go to waste. But on the other hand, now we can rest easy. Here, accept these for your efforts.
You overloaded the plant, breaking it. The NCR is kept from using the power, but no one in the Mojave Wasteland can benefit from it. As a reward, you only get 3 stim packs and 2 doctor's bags. Now, the other option is to arm the Archimedes security system to wipe out all NCR soldiers. This diverts power to the Archimedes One, not 2. The Archimedes One is attached to the Helios One security system, which will then trigger when it detects the NCR soldiers and kill them. Maybe we want to side with the Legion. To do so, we open the terminal and then click on Arm Archimedes Plant Defense System. We then go outside and flip the switch on the control panel.
Warning, return on sequence initiated for Helios One reflector banks. The Archimedes laser systems will automatically initiate test fire upon completion.
The solar panels align just like before, capturing energy from the sun, and almost immediately after, energy beams come down from the Archimedes One, frying NCR soldiers in the field as they run. I went ahead and changed the time of day to night so that we can get a much more impressive display.
Archimedes 2 orbital laser bombardment will commence in T-minus 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Whoa! With that blast, we wipe out the NCR at this installation. Heading on down to the ground, it is a bloodbath. Corpses absolutely everywhere. Even in the tents, none of them escaped. Even the interior of the building is completely empty. The soldiers are gone from the barracks, but if you go back to the control room, we can still talk with Fantastic.
What the fuck, man? Are you loco? You just killed my paycheck.
And Ignacio.
What have you done? Get away from me.
If you decide to wipe out the NCR here at Helios One, the Brotherhood don't get it. No, 2 days later, the Legion move in. If you spared Fantastic's life, he converts and becomes a legionary and kills Ignacio.
Man, I don't even know. It's crazy. Shh. You feel that? That's the winds of change, baby, and Fantastic's riding them with his magical angel wings. They saw the shit I did for the NCR, how I carried them on my back, brought the fire to the heathens. I wasn't gonna help them, but they begged. Well, somebody begged. Couldn't say who for sure. It's all a blur, you know? Chems, man. What a trip. I'm working on some top secret shit I can't even tell you about. It's so mind-blowing. But here's a little taste. You know how you can only collect sunlight during the day? Well, what if you could make it daytime all the time? Crazy, right? Or is it? I'm gonna find somebody smart and ask him that question, see what he says. It'll be fucking intense.
You'll find him dressed in legionary garb, and his explanation is,
Hey man, when in Rome.
and that is the full story of Helios One, the Archimedes 2 satellite laser weapon, and the Euclid C-Finder. So which one of these options is the best? Well, choosing any of the options has no impact in-game, aside from the loot you get from Ignacio and the fame that you get. So if you want NCR fame, send the power to McCarran in the Strip. If you want Followers of the Apocalypse fame, send it anywhere else. The only cool item you get is if you send the power to the Archimedes 2, and then you get the Euclid C-Finder, which you can only use outside and every 24 hours. As for ethics, I think the most ethical decision is to send the power to everyone. If you overload it, nobody gets the power. If you send it just to the Strip and the NCR, you really support the NCR war effort, but some of the other people who might not have allied with the NCR living in the slums won't get the power. If you send it just to the slums of Fremont and Westside, then the troops who are at the front lines fighting off the Legion to keep those people safe don't benefit from the power. So I think the best option is to give it to everyone. Not only is it the fair thing to do, everyone gets the power, including the NCR and the people in the slums, but you also get the best rewards. You get the big book of science, all the stim packs and the doctor bags, and a good amount of Followers of the Apocalypse fame. I really love the Euclid C-Finder. It's a fun toy to play with, but it's not really practical, and it just wasn't worth it for me. But those are just my thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. What did you choose to do when you did this encounter? What are your thoughts on Poseidon Energy? Did you find their pre-war notes to their employees that we found in the terminals disturbing like I did? Do you think that the Brotherhood of Steel was justified in hoarding the Archimedes 2 for themselves and trying to keep the NCR from it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I read all of your comments and I use your comments as inspiration for my future videos. I publish a new video 6 days a week. I do Fallout 4 lore, Fallout New Vegas lore, and soon I will be dipping my pinky toe into Fallout 3 lore. So if that excites you, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell notification button. And did you know that I've got a t-shirt shop? That's right, if you're interested in getting Fallout or Oxhorn themed shirts, you can find a link to my shop in the description below. And if you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming one of my patrons on Patreon. Patreon subscribers gain access to a private channel on my Discord server, as well as a bunch of other cool Oxhorn perks. But more than anything, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow morning, bright and early, with a brand new video.
Murderer!